So with our lovely Miss Ready Cuteness, we'll do a little bit with our gait practice again. So I know that you had mentioned, and we were going to be working on it, and then I had to take a little breather because I think she had to go to the restroom real quick. So we went out for a little potty break. So right here, we're going to again try the weight and then practice moving the door a little bit and see if she can hang back before we go to try to practice moving the door and opening it and then having her wait as we step through that little threshold. So remember, we want to practice with doorways that don't instantly equal outdoor time because that could be a little too exciting. So again, we're going to do a little wait, and that's just for while we're first warming up the skill. This doesn't mean that you're not going to apply this to your real door as you go to practice. So again, we're going to open and kind of wiggle. The door, depending on, again, at the household, could open towards you, away from you. There's lots of different options. If, again, my pup is a little bit wiggly, I'm just going to reset her up. I'm going to tell her to wait. I'm going to wiggle my door and then feed for holding back. So again, wait, and we're going to play with our door. And let's say while she's waiting here, I'm going to add a few little moments, and then I'm going to go again. Maple, come. And I can bring her in through the doorway. So if, again, let's say she's having a hard time going in and out of the threshold, I like to practice from both sides. So again, I'm going to have her wait. I could then play with the door again, get her to realize that when the door wiggles, it doesn't mean movement. Get her to hold back and then practice once more. So again, wait, and we're going to wiggle our door. And let's say right here, if she goes to wiggle, I'm going to regain that little sit. She's just a little bit unsure. So we're going to wait for a sec right there. Wait. Get her to hold back. If she gets a little excited, she's going to regain her focus back on the sitting. Wait. Take a little step. Have her hold it. And then Maple, come. So the other option too is obviously practicing with the doorway that is not the real threshold is really crucial in the beginning because we want to practice the how-to before we need the dance move in the real world. So again, as I mentioned, there are some, different noises today. There's a nail gun going off, which has really been throwing out the girls for a loop. So I'm going to regain my lady, get a little sit, tell her to wait. I'm going to play with my door again and make sure the door itself doesn't create movement on her end. So right here, yes. Once more. And again, we got those funny noises. Sit. Nice. Wait. So again, while she's sitting and waiting, I might try to step through. If she wiggles too soon, reapply the weight, get her to hold it for a second or two, and then Maple, come, and then bring her in through the threshold. So remember, it won't be the most beautiful thing you've ever done when you first start off, but it's getting the dance moves under your belt and hers. So again, wait. I'm going to play with my door. Again, if she wiggles, reset her up. She's holding back for a few seconds. I do like to feed sometimes while she's in the sitting position to remind her that being stationary can have some good value. So again, my door is open. I might tell her to wait. Give her a second or two if she wiggles. Regain that sit. And she did spill a little bit of her water dish earlier, so she's a little bit mushy on her feet. Wait. Maple, come. So nice. The other option too is let's say you're doing this and the real doorway is just so hard that even though she's been doing a really good job, ready, find it, with the easier doorways, another great option would be to use some targets. So I'm just going to grab a snuffle mat real quick. So the benefit of I know she's like, guys, that's some weird banging. Ready, find it. So the benefit of having a snuffle mat is you could set up this on the other side of your door. So your puppy starts to have that from waiting here or wherever you're practicing and having a target at the other end means the excitement of outside is not the main goal to get to, but more the snuffle mat or slow feed bowl or even bowl right outside the step. So if you just have from inside to outside as a little target off to the side, you can then start to help them hone in on that versus going right into, for example, rushing the doorway. Ready? So Maple, she's like, no, it smells amazing already. So ready? We could get her attention. Let's say we're going to go ahead and set her up right about here. We're going to get that little sit, tell her to wait. I'm going to close my door so we can start the exercise once more. So she would be waiting. I might play with the door. Again, feed for not moving when the doorway starts to make noise or jingle like the knob or the slider. Have her sit, tell her, oh, chewing is still hard. Have her wait for a moment. Maybe we'll get the slimier snacks again. So sometimes she does better with a little bit. I do sometimes have a teeny bit of cheese for her because that's more of a higher value, but it's also softer and it slides down a little bit better. So again, we're going to wait. I'm going to, again, play with the door. If the door opens towards the thing, you might want to make it where there's a little bit of a gap between the door opening and the item. So, but right now we could pretend maybe the door is going to open towards us. So we're going to do a little wait. I'm going to open the door, have her hold back, and then I might sort of go, Maple, come, and go right into the target. So you can also have the target preloaded. So like, let's say, for example, you had it with several snacks right outside the doorway. This way, when she goes to step out, it's kind of becomes this habit of taking a little pit stop and slowing down, which I find can be really helpful if your babes are not really comfortable yet working those weights to the same level at this moment. So this way she could go into working a little find it on the snuffle mat, take her sweet time finding that, and then sometimes working a next little target. So having small little bowls or little items she can then partake in. Oh my goodness, chewing, madam. But we may find that for some of the babes, even the Super Bowls game that I'd mentioned earlier for Miss P, to build up comfort moving from one bubble to another, it can also be really helpful for slowing down some puppies that get very stimulated by the environment or distractions. So this way, if Miss M was having a hard time, you could set her up where maybe there's a snuffle mat or maybe there's a few little small slow feed bowls. She's like, hold on, lady, my leash is giving me a wedgie. So we'll do a little find it right there. And if, again, you're working with this leash, perfectly fine. But I find since this one's a little bit shorter, it doesn't give you as much length to practice with. Ready? So we're going to try, again, setting her up with a little sit. You could also try this with the threshold open if it was comfortable and not like a hot day or the real door if you're not wanting to leave it open the whole time. So I'm going to try, and again, the nail gun is sort of throwing her off. So I'm going to try and regain her attention with the higher value snack, get that little sit, tell her to wait, and then take my little step through and then either call her into my space when I was ready. If she wiggles, I'm going to reset her up with a little wait, and then Maple, come. And then I could feed her for coming when called or going into the target mat to then slow her down versus rushing through the doorway. But I would say for homework's sake for the lovely lady, nice job, cuteness, is that if going through doorways or thresholds is very difficult, try to pick a slogan that makes sense. Ready, cuteness? We'll do a couple little find its as she's getting distracted by the sounds again. Is that if, again, she's struggling, try to break it down into basic steps in the very beginning in an environment where it's easy to be attainable. So again, that could be the doorway that doesn't actually lead outside. It could be like a bedroom doorway. If you're practicing with the car, I'd highly recommend where you have her practice going in and out of the car, but you're not going anywhere. You're just in the driveway and you're practicing that hopping in and out. Is maybe you tell her to wait and then she hops out, you feed her for holding back, and then coming when called through the doorway. But definitely working it prior to needing it is going to be crucial. Oh my goodness, you might have to go get a little drink, madam. Chewing is so hard when you're a pupperoo. But for our lovely Miss M, she's doing a great job. I know tonight we have a one-on-one. So we'll dive into some of the other topics that you're having a hard time with. But for her day school stay, I think she did quite lovely. She and Miss P are doing a really nice job together. So don't feel you have to keep rocking it. But we may find for this gorgeous gal, like the structured play or going to the puppy play group, which she did awesome last time in the puppy play group as well. So that would be something I'd keep trying to work on, especially if she's having a harder moment here and there in certain setups. So ready, Miss M? We're going to do a little find it. Ready? Find it. But we'll give our lovely Miss M a little breather. She did a really great job, and we'll take a little break for our lovely girl. But nice job, Miss M.